Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I am your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Brent. How you doing, Brent?
Hey, Taran, what's going on?
It's going well.
I don't have anything funny to say today. I was just like, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you ever really have anything funny to say, Brent?
Not often. Thank you.
Yeah. And Melissa is on her way. We wanted to get started. She will be joining us very shortly. She was held up on her way home. So Melissa will be joining us very shortly. But we will be live every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern to argue about what's been going on these live feeds on Big Brother Canada 6. We have the chat room open on robhasawebsite.com, and you can send questions into me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. So thank you for coming and hanging out with us on our very first roundtable of Big Brother Canada 6. Very excited to talk Big Brother Canada, Brent.
I am as well. You know, now that the feeds are back on, or have been back on for a little bit while, it's been very interesting gameplay, and it's very hard to keep up with the house. I had people texting me and asking me questions that I could not answer because it's still a little complicated about the fluidity of the alliances and the bonds that are currently in the house, partially because the feeds have been off, partially because things are a little bit complicated right now.
Yes. Court in the chat says this roundtable is missing its zest. Yes, the zest will be gate crashing in on us very soon. So we will be doing our best to break down all of what Brent just talked about. This whole idea of this fluid house with the fluid structure. We're going to be trying to talk about what all that means, you know, where people stand, and we're going to be doing our best to go into all of that detail for you guys. It's something that it's hard to really talk about on the updates because it changes on a day-to-day basis, and it's very difficult to get into on the recaps because it just takes a lot of time. So this is the podcast for it, and I'm very excited to be talking to you guys. So,
and I just want to really say quickly, like, I mean, where the show is right now in terms of Andrew and Hamza being on the block with the veto yet to be played, I mean, that feels like it was 2 weeks ago compared to where I feel like the house is currently. So, I mean, this whole Monday, Wednesday, Thursday thing, I'm interested to see how much I can adapt to it, because I'm so used to at least getting back into the swing of things by Sunday. And I know that might seem like a lot, but once you're back into the new week on Monday, I feel like it feels like ages ago that they were nominated, Taran.
Especially after Celebrity Big Brother, where we were very used to a quick turnaround of like bam, bam, bam. And now it's like, oh, this is the same week as it's been the whole time. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it looks like our zest has arrived. Melissa, how are you doing?
I'm good. Sorry I'm late.
Sorry I'm late.
Sorry.
I love it.
No, but yeah, I caught the end of what you guys were saying, and I totally agree. It feels like this week has been going on forever. Especially when they've already determined essentially like who's going to go home. It's like, I'm like, oh, wait, Andrew's not already gone? Like, what's going on? And so I feel like we should just like speed it up. It's like, I think we were spoiled from Celebrity Big Brother because that was like a great, like, quick pace. Like, there was no downtime really. It was awesome. And now I feel like, oh boy, this is a long
And these
week.
people, they want to play fast. Like, everyone's all gaming behind closed doors. Like, I mean, Andrew's nowhere to be seen. I mean, I haven't seen him on the feeds in the past 24 hours, barely. He's doing the Audrey blanket death watch thing where he just sleeps and hopes they forget about it, or Hamza makes a mistake. I mean, everyone else is trying to play, but they got to wait until Thursday until we get a new HOH.
Well,
and like the thing is, sorry, I was just gonna say the thing is that like we don't need the speed of Celebrity Big Brother. Like that was pretty much like on steroids. Like, but if they just maybe have 2 people go home each week, like you divide each week in half, or maybe, you know, maybe a little bit longer. But I feel like they don't need to like dedicate a whole week to one person going home.
I don't know.
It depends on the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works, and the reason I think it works is that we're still getting a ton of interesting gameplay, and there's been a ton of great drama this week. I mean, there have been 2 house meetings. There have been, people going back and forth, alliances forming and breaking, and allegiances shifting, and targets moving. So there's been plenty to talk about and to examine and to enjoy on the feeds. I think the problem that the show might have is that they're usually very focused on their formula, which is, will they go home? Won't they go home? And if the show focuses on will Andrew go home, I feel like it will hurt because of it. Whereas if they kind of just, and Survivor does this sometimes, where they're just kind of like, yeah, we admit it, this person is going home,
right?
But look at all the other stuff going on.
But let's talk about something else. Yeah.
I feel like that can make for some compelling television, because I think it's made for some very compelling feeds. So very excited about all of that.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. The feeds have been great. Like, I've been totally on board with the feeds. It's just that, I don't know. I feel like there's been so much that's been going on that ends up not really mattering, because Andrew's going home anyway. And then next week it's going to be totally different once the new HOH is crowned. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff that's going on that's exciting at the time, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not going to matter who's in an alliance with who right now, because next week someone's going to get HOH, and that's when it's going to matter who's in an alliance with who. So I don't know. I just feel like
I do feel like people make mistakes when they are this gung-ho to gameplay, when they're plotting behind closed doors and they can't make a move because someone's clearly going out the door in Andrew, and they need a new HOH, and they can't do anything until the HOH is crowned. I do feel like there are people in the house currently who will make mistakes because it's sort of like they can't wait to do something, and now they're going to get their chance on Thursday. And I feel like that the better players are the ones who have a little bit more patience. Remember, Big Brother is like a marathon, not a sprint. And I feel like that many people in this house, like I already heard, was it Paris, some of the feeds today? And I don't know, I don't think she really believes this, but she was saying, well, if we don't do something, we're all going to be picked off one by one. And I'm like, honey, one person has gone home. What are you talking about? But maybe she's just trying to rally the troops against the Erica, Johnny contingent. By the way, this is all spoilers, by the way. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I just want to make sure people know that.
Yes, the Roundtable podcast is where we discuss everything that we could possibly know about the show from the live feeds and everything else. So you must be willing to be spoiled to enter in this domain. You must be willing to take a bite from the spoiler burger. So yeah, I'm very excited. I feel like this cast has like a great mixture of savvy players that are anxious to make moves, like Will, people like that, like even Hamza to some extent, who just like, they're really chomping at the bit. They're like, I want to go, I want to play. And then also other savvy players who are not players that just want to sit back, but want to keep their options as open as possible. They want to have as many hands and as many pots as possible. And so many people are doing that there's like a billion pots and a billion hands, and you don't know which one is going to burn you and which one is going to heal you. I think it's making for some great gameplay, and I'm very excited to be talking about it. Let's do a quick recap of the events of this week. We'll catch people up who maybe just follow the show or haven't been listening to the podcast or whatever. We start the week with Veronica and Marin entering the house, as we saw on the episode. They told their lie about being pulled from the audience, and then we entered a contest and we didn't even expect to be in here. And of course, nobody believed this, Melissa.
No, nobody believed it, because nobody's an idiot. It was the stupidest reason they could have thought of. There's so many other reasons that they like. I just don't understand why they thought that was a good idea in the first place, considering that one, neither of them are super fans, and they're saying that they were sitting in the audience watching. So, like, first of all, they're not super fans. They don't know anything about the show. Okay, so they can be questioned on that. They'll be able to be seen right away. Then second, they're saying they're watching the show. They're sitting in the audience, so they've seen the show. So they know things. They literally could be asked about the cast and know about what went on the first week. Oh no, wait, well, never mind. We didn't actually see anything, but you were in the audience. Like, none of it makes any sense. It doesn't. It was like so easy to be found out.
Yes. Yes,
right
well,
away.
They're recruits, though. They're idiots. They don't know what they're doing. I will say this: for the 3 seconds that the house bought it, it was kind of worth it for me because I remember like them showing Allie when they were like, we got pulled out of the audience. Arissa says you're going on the show, and they're like, no, like. It was they believed it for like 3 seconds, and then they start looking at each other like, nah.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
They're like, what about your stuff? Why do you have a bag? Like, it was like all this. Oh my God.
What about the bios?
Yeah, did you see our bios?
What?
Oh
Yeah,
God.
yeah, I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So shortly after this, Ryan ends up winning the HOH, and this is when the feeds come back. He's already talking about
Can I just also say, sorry, that was a really fun HOH.
Yes.
Very
like, that was really cool. Because it shows a lot of things about what other people are thinking about you, like their impressions of you in the house, and also it reveals stuff that you think about other people because you don't know what the house said. So a lot of them were saying like, oh, I think so-and-so was least deserving or whatever. And it turns out that was the wrong answer. So now you know that this person thinks that about you. And I think it was a really cool competition. I think Big Brother Canada does a great job with their competitions.
And it also not only reveals what the house is currently thinking about people from a quality standpoint, but also reveals where other people are in the chopping order in terms of who you value as part of the house, because they had to eliminate people, and the people they eliminated were not necessarily the same people that they just threw a drink on. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was very, very revealing, and I enjoyed it very much. Also visually stunning.
Yes.
Also, was it Kayla? Did Kayla break a glass on Hamza's face, or like, wait, what happened there?
Somebody did, yeah.
I was like, whoa,
they obviously weren't glass, but like the top of it popped off of the stem. Smash. Yeah.
They had a glass sound effect or something on the show, but I thought there was going to be blood, but luckily there was not.
I just a perfect HOH competition all around between the revealing questions, the revealing order in which people are eliminated, the stunning look of it. It's just this is what we want to see out of a competition on Big Brother. Very happy about it. But Ryan ends up winning, and he's immediately talking about needing to target Andrew because the house will go after him otherwise. And the house consensus is that Andrew is the target, and Ryan needs to go along with this because nobody was talking game with him, and he needs people to come to him. He needs to integrate himself with the house.
How'd he do with that?
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job.
Super great. He's #1 in the house. Everybody loves him.
Yes. This plan of his is going to backfire dramatically. But before we get there, we have Maddie talking to him, and this is kind of what really sinks him. Maddie talking to him the night of that HOH competition and convincing him that Olivia would be a good backdoor target and that he might find some support in the house if he did that. Ryan, who was never super keen on the idea of evicting one of his potential allies in Andrew, takes to this idea very kindly. And the next day, he talks with everyone and implies that he wants to backdoor somebody. He gets some people to commit to voting Olivia out if she goes up on the block. And so far, he's kind of overplayed. He's kind of overstated his hand. It's still kind of a silly move to put up 2 of your allies in the first place with the intention of not eliminating any of them. However, this still might work at this point. Ryan's big mistake comes when he starts telling people that they should all throw the veto. Guys, you should. It's really, really great for you if you throw the veto. I'm just looking out for your game. It would not be a good thing for you to do that because I have watched all of the seasons of Big Brother, and I can't keep talking like that because it's even driving myself insane.
Thank you.
So he starts telling people that they can't win the veto, and that starts really sketching people out, Brent.
Yes, it really started. And plus, for some of the people that he talked to, he wouldn't even reveal who he was going to put up as a replacement nominee. He just told them that, it's not a good idea for you to win the veto, and I have somebody I'm thinking about as a replacement nominee. Well, who are they? Well, I'm just going to keep that information to myself for now. So, he was actually really, really sketchy to many of these people. I would be freaked the, out if somebody told me to throw the veto and they wouldn't tell me who the replacement nominee was going to be. I think he dropped a few hints here and there, but I still would be feeling not so great. Like if you're asking me to throw it and you can't trust me with this information, how valuable am I to you and how trustworthy am I to you? Not very much. I just feel like he really got HOH-itis, and it just blew up in his face.
Yes. He even went around, he was telling people like Johnny and Erica, like, hey, people don't trust you. They think you're in an alliance with other people and you need to watch out for that. And while I think he was thinking that he was being helpful, he was actually sketching them out pretty hardcore.
Because he wouldn't reveal who said that. He kept that information to himself.
Yes. So it really starts sketching people out. The one friend he does kind of end up making here, funny enough, one of them is Marin, who talked to him about who he would potentially target, and he named Allie. And so Marin kind of feels okay with Ryan at the moment because they've talked. Marin liked the idea. And then the other person that Ryan seems to be okay with at the moment from all of this is Allie, because he actually went to Allie with the information from Marin and told her, hey, Marin's thinking about targeting you. You should try harder with him. And because he named the source, I think she was actually grateful for that information. And she seems to still be okay with Ryan. But for everyone else, the feeds went down. The veto competition happened. Erica ends up defying Ryan's orders and winning this veto competition, and then going on to inform him that she is not going to use the veto. This all happened when the feeds were down. They were down for over a day, and we believe they went down because of some kind of injury that happened with Andrew in the veto competition that the Big Brother Canada producers did not want us to hear about, but of course we heard about it anyway because, come on. So the feeds come back, and at this point, everyone has completely soured on Ryan. The veto has not been used. The backdoor plan is not going to happen, and Andrew and Hamza are left sitting on the block with Andrew as the main target, Melissa.
Yeah, honestly, Ryan really misplayed this HOH. I mean, to end the week with both of your only allies essentially on the block, like, that is the stupidest thing. Like, especially when you feel like you're on the outs, don't put up the only people that you get along with. Like, this is your one chance to take a shot at the other side of the house. I mean, they don't like you anyway. It's not like this is going to make them like you now all of a sudden. I think that's what he was hoping for, but it's just really bad play. And This whole time I was like, oh, this guy's a super fan? Like, what the heck? But it turns out he's not a super fan. He just watched the show just like every other, casual fan. It's insane. He's like, I've watched every season. Well, yeah, okay, so have the rest of us. And yet we've also watched every single second of the live feeds for 1 billion seasons as well. So we've watched way more than you. And it's no wonder that he's playing as someone who's only seen the show. And it's very clear. So, yeah, he doesn't see the pitfalls and the, mistakes that people make on the live feeds, and because it's a totally different show than the ones that's portrayed on the actual show.
In a game where, Taran, the only power of the minority is to win HOH. I mean, this is not Survivor. This is not where, majority rules. In Big Brother, anything can happen, even if it's 14-2 and one of those two wins HOH, then my God, head for the hills because something crazy is going to happen. So you have that's basically where he's at right now. He knows he's on the outside. He wins HOH. He only has a couple people that he feels comfortable with who would not come after him, who maybe talk a little bit of game with him. So he has two paths in front of him. One, put them up and hope to God that the house forgets about him, meaning Ryan, that he does the bidding of the house, meaning put up Andrew and Hamza, and fade back into the woodwork and hope other people make mistakes. Okay, that's one path. Number two, don't put up Andrew and Hamza. Put up Olivia and Erica, or Olivia and whoever. I guess Erica was the other person on his short list, even though he went to Wendy's with her. And put them up. Force one of them to go home, most likely, unless somebody wins the veto, but you can still put somebody else up, even if they do win the veto. Keep your allies safe and play it out from there. But instead, he tried to have it both ways. He tried to put up the contingent of Hamza and Andrew, but yet B, try to get out somebody from choice B. And it would have worked possibly if it wasn't completely transparent to the rest of the house. I alluded to this on the podcast last night, but it pisses me off even more today because I feel like in Big Brother, you just have to pick a path and go with it. And he didn't have a plan. That's the problem, Taran. He didn't have a plan. Maybe he thinks he did, but the plan was no plan whatsoever.
Yes, and it was even said, maybe by Kayla, that he tried to have his cake and eat it too. Put up people to appease the house, and then actively work to save them and target somebody else instead. And it was not a good idea. in any respect, and the execution of it was very lackluster. So as of right now, he remains a social pariah for the most part, between giving unsolicited advice, trying to make people throw the veto, and then apparently while the feeds were down, he was also trying to shift the target from Andrew to Hamza, which basically all of the House does not want. And so that trifecta has come together, and Ryan is completely on the outs. And as of right now, it looks like Andrew will be leaving the House on what probably will be a unanimous vote, Melissa.
Yep. That's what it looks like to me. And that's really dumb of Ryan. It's like amazing. One friend.
I mean, Melissa, it's amazing to me that we saw Andrew make the mistake during the first week of trying to exert his will on the House after a target was already settled upon, and Rosina was going to be the one to go home. He tries to flip it and get Allie to go home. The House rejects him, and because of that, he's in immediate danger. Ryan becomes HOH. He sees that happen in front of him. He ends up putting Andrew on the block because of it, and then proceeds to make exactly the same mistake, trying to exert his will on the House. The House wants Andrew to go home. He says, basically trying to, feet were down for most of this, but I can tell what happened. He tried to move heaven and earth to try to force Erica to use the veto so he could get Olivia up. Failing that, he wanted Hamza to go home. And it was just, God, it was just bad. How can you do that when you see what happened the first week? And I know even Veronica, hashtag Plur, called him out in the House meeting, the second one, where she said, this is what Andrew did the first week, and now you're doing the same thing. He didn't really see the connection, and it's totally lost on me how he cannot. Maybe he'll illuminate us in the diary room.
Yeah, this is one of those HOHs that it just goes completely as wrong as it can go. Like a Bridget eliminating one of her closest allies in Big Brother 18 on her watch. But even then, that was mostly Frank's fault. Like when you are HOH and you have basically your closest ally leave during your reign, and then the rest of the House hates you for it. That is about as worse as it. That's about as bad as it gets. It doesn't get much worse than that.
Having said that, though, as bad as he's played, I don't think he goes home next. I think that other people are making mistakes, and there's friction with other people in the House and jealousy with other people in the House, and he may get out of this, and that may feed his ego that he's just playing this correctly. But I just want it to be known, for the record, he's played this as bad as he possibly could.
Yes. So I want to start trying to break down where everybody in this House lies. And as we've talked about, there are no real solid alliances. You might say today that we have two sides right now that are divided by the rooms or something along those lines. But these lines have been shifting every day since the feeds came on. So who knows how long it'll stay this way. And there are a lot of relationships that go back and forth and in between. So I want to try and tackle this in little tiny groupings and sort of talk about the relationships that these people have with each other and then outside of their group. So the first people I want to start with, because they seem to be mostly in the center of everything, is the trio of Derek, Kayla, and Jesse. Derek and Kayla obviously are currently in a showmance for the most part, along with Jesse and Derek, who are in a bromance of sorts. And these three are kind of the center of power. They have a lot of influence with a lot of different people and a lot of different connections with a lot of different people. Starting with, they have this alliance of 7 that we can talk about, where they have approached Erica and Johnny, who are kind of another pair, and then Allie and Olivia. And they've come together to form this sort of 7-person voting block that doesn't seem particularly loyal to each other, but does have a decent amount of numbers. Kayla also has a good relationship with Maddie. And Kayla and Derek and Maddie and Will seem to have some kind of understanding, at least. And then Kayla also has a good connection with Paris, or sort of this Real Deal alliance is another thing that stems from this Derek and Kayla and Jesse thing, where Paris was obviously included in that Real Deal alliance that was formed on the episode on last Thursday night. So they have a lot of different connections going around this House, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm like, you're like losing me with all these names and these connections. It's like so many. It's kind of crazy how there's so many interwoven pairs and triplets and like a giant block of 7. But I will say, though, that I do like the fact that, I mean, first of all, I like the fact that there are all these smaller alliances. I like smaller alliances rather than these giant like group alliances that everyone seems to be forming these days. And I also like the fact that even though they have this group of 7, this voting block, everyone in the 7 essentially has said on their own, like, this 7 is okay, but let's stick to our pairs. This isn't going to last forever. And I like the fact that they're thinking that way rather than Big Brother US, where literally everybody is like, if we just stay together as a 13, we'll get to the end. Like, it's like, you're not going to stay together as 13 strong or like 12 strong. So it's nice and refreshing to see that people aren't thinking that way and that they're actually realizing that this is helpful for now, but I'm not, throwing all my eggs into this giant basket.
The one person who you didn't mention when you were talking about Derek, Kayla, and Jesse was Paris. And Taran, I know that the Feedsters have heard from us before that there was an alliance called The Real Deal. So what happened with Paris? I mean, I know the answer. I'm just asking you as a sort of just a prompting question. What happened with Paris? And are they still loyal to Paris? Because I see some people in the chat room talking about Paris's workings on the house today.
I did mention Paris, right? I'm pretty sure we talked. I'm pretty sure I mentioned The Real Deal.
You did like about that, like the 23rd person down the list, but yes. Look, my point is this: that Paris in the past we've been talking about. Maybe I think even like on Thursday night I was talking about Paris with Jesse and Kayla with Derek, and they were in a 4-person alliance, like basically 2 showmances in the house. 4-person alliance called The Real Deal. Now, even though Paris is working with other people, she's talking with Maddie, she's seeing if she can form other bonds, she's trying to get in with Will, and yet she's trying to get the target on to some people in that 7, but not the people that she was previously aligned with in The Real Deal. And I think that's an important context to make sure that we make.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned with Paris, if I'm honest, because I like her a lot, but the way she's going about this, I feel like it's gonna bite her in the
dangerous
butt. Like, I just feel like, because she's going to, let's say, for example, Kayla, and saying, or maybe it was Maddie, one of those girls. She's like, we can't trust Will. I can't trust Will with anything because he goes straight to Veronica and tells her everything, and we can't trust Veronica at all. So there's no way. Then, like, an hour later, I see her spilling her guts to Veronica, and and saying we can't trust anyone else in this house. It's you and me. We're the outsiders. I don't get along with anyone else. And then she goes over to, Maddie or whoever, and it's like, it's you and me till the end. Like, who did she say it to earlier? I think Maddie, where she said, we're the Brittany and Sarah Hanlon of the season. Like, it's you and me. And then she goes to somebody else and says something very similar. And it's not just like, hey, I trust you. Like, we're good. We get along or something like that. She also talks poorly about the other people, not like in a, bad way where she's just mean talking people, but in a way that's like, we can't trust this person. I can't, we can't be in an alliance with this person, And if any of this information, if any of this crosstalk happens, she's screwed.
Yes, Paris is, I think, the person who has the most amount of connections at the moment, and
the most to lose.
Yes, and we'll get to. I'll try to break down all of those connections as well. Right now, focusing on the Derek, Kayla, Jesse trio, they see this Real Deal as they were starting to question, or at least Kayla was starting to question Paris, because Paris has been a little all over the place, and Kayla had been talking for the past few days about maybe we need to start cutting Paris, maybe this Real Deal thing, we should start moving away from it. However, over the course of today, Paris did have a conversation with Kayla that really seemed to solidify Kayla's allegiance to Paris and the idea that they want this Real Deal alliance to be real, to be the real deal, and to continue working. So from that trio's perspective, they have this Real Deal alliance with Paris. The guys have a guys alliance with Will. The 3 of them are involved in this sort of 5-person to 7-person thing with Erica, Johnny, Allie, and Olivia. and they're currently thinking about wanting to target Marin and potentially, potentially Ryan, but I think Marin seems to be their main target at the moment. They feel like they have Veronica on their side for the most part, and they just want Marin as one of the new people who they feel like is on the other side of the house. They want him to go. They want to continue to take shots at the other side with at the people that they don't have influence over.
Right. And they're concerned that the gatecrashers might have a power.
Yes.
That's the other thing. Somehow it's been going around the house that they are concerned that the gatecrashers might get a reward for getting far in the game, or they might have some sort of secret power that they can use to save one another. So there is talk about putting them on the block together to see if there is any power, to see if anything will come out. Of course, we know there won't be. And I feel like that given the paranoia in the house, I understand where they're coming from. I will say that watching Paris, well, actually, let me stick with this threesome. The threesome of Derek, Kayla, and Jesse is being protected by Paris because she is loyal to them, I feel like. And while other people in the house are talking about targeting Derek or Kayla, I think Will was targeting it, maybe Hamza was. But I think she was talking to Will when she was having this conversation. They were talking about, who from the Red Room are we going to target? And the showmance was brought up as a potential target. Paris is trying everything possible to get the target off of Kayla, Derek, and Jesse and onto Erica, Johnny, Allie, and Olivia. I mean, she kept beating that like a drum. So from my perspective, looking at what she's doing on the feeds right now, I do feel like that Paris is loyal to that threesome, and that's why they're currently, I feel like, pretty well insulated in the house unless Hamza wins HOH.
Yes, very much so. And I would say that that threesome has the most amount of power in the house, the most amount of influence. They don't have the most amount of information. I think they have an incomplete view of the house because there are a fair amount of things that are going on that are not that are unbeknownst to them. And ultimately, I think when we get to Paris, we'll talk about how I think she is probably the person on top of the most amount of knowledge in the house. But I do want to talk about Erica and Johnny real fast because they are involved in this sort of 7-person deal with the trio of Derek, Kayla, and Jesse. Johnny has a lot of good individual personal connections with people.
Doesn't he?
Yes. To the point where even if they think that he's not on their side, they don't want to take a shot at him. They would much prefer to take a shot at somebody else. So Johnny is in a really great spot at the moment. I think at some point people might start to look at him as very threatening socially, but right now there's not a single person in that house that wants to come even close to targeting him. And the only alliance that he's really attached to, and even then he's not very involved, is this 7-person thing. So Johnny is in a great spot where he doesn't have to be involved in any alliances, and he's being kept safe by basically everyone. Erica, on the other hand, is involved in this 7-person thing. She also has some deals here and there with people like Olivia, and she's talked with Allie, and she talks a lot with Kayla. Erica is a bit higher on people's radar. They see her as a bit of a challenge threat, as a bit of a social threat, and as somebody that has a lot of influence. Paris, in particular, talks about Erica a lot, and that could be bad for her. And as you mentioned, Brent, as Erica is in the 7-person thing, and she's not one of the trio that Paris is protecting, that leaves her particularly vulnerable to an attack from the other side of the house.
Yes, and I do feel like that if you're putting a gun to my head and saying who is going to be in danger next week, I think Erica's at the top of the list. I really do. I feel like of all the people in the house, I feel like there are a lot of people that could be either want to target Olivia and by consequence put Erica up as a pawn, or maybe Allie. But I do feel like it would be Erica because they fear her, her comp ability the most. And I think there are other people who could be persuaded to put Olivia up and by consequence Erica or Allie. So I feel like that those people are in danger. I'm glad that Johnny, if you're rooting for Johnny, and I am, I find it unbelievable that someone can win HOH and Veto in the first week, and yet no one is talking about getting rid of him at this point. I don't know if that speaks to the stupidity of the house or it speaks to the ability of Johnny to integrate himself well and form some sort of social currency with them where they see him as valuable to them. But more than anything, I do worry about this foursome, but I don't think Johnny will take any. I don't think he's going to be punished for being a part of it.
Yes.
I've been very impressed with Johnny actually. Like my pregame assessment, I'm not walking anything back, but I'm just saying
Fancy
that
time. Oh.
I've been actually like out of all the people, I think I'm most impressed with, or I guess my opinion has probably changed the most on Johnny, because after the first week when he won HOH and Veto, I was like, this guy is an idiot and he's going to overplay and all this other stuff. And you know what? He's done a great job of reintegrating back into the group, and people like him a lot. And, you know, I personally liked when Veronica was like, I'm going to call out Ryan. I'm going to go against him, da, da, da. And he was like, you know, maybe let's not like do a bullying sort of situation. Let's kind of be nicer about it. And I mean, as much as it like kind of ruins feeds, like I like the fact that he cared enough about Ryan to be like, look, he's in a bad place already. We should just kind of be a little nicer to him. So I really was impressed by Johnny lately. And another person that I've really enjoyed watching is Erica. I think she's really funny on the feeds. So she has some great commentary, especially when she was talking about that house meeting and how it all went down and how it was just kind of like womp womp. And so I thought that was really funny.
Yes. Yeah. So Erica and Johnny, they are very safe, or at least Johnny is very safe in the house. They're people that I think are focusing a lot more on personal relationships rather than the strategic alliances. They are involved in the 7-person thing, but Erica didn't really ask for it. She was approached by Kayla and Derek, and Johnny has not really approached anyone with alliance talk. He's focusing very much on the relationships, and I think that's what's keeping him safe right now. In terms of influence, I don't think they have a ton, but the connections that they have and their ability to win competitions make them particularly valuable to any potential allies and also very dangerous in the house. And I think that Erica will take the brunt of that before Johnny does.
Well, in regards to that, you talked about that, the social game versus the alliance. I mean, do you like that? The fact that more than anything, because I feel like Erica in some ways has been a little bit lazy in terms of establishing some alliances and some footing in the house, sort of just leaning on her ability to get along with people and get people to like her, which she has done. But on the other hand, I feel like has dropped the ball in terms of actually managing to get some numbers on her side. And Johnny as well. But Johnny seems protected and Erica seems a little more vulnerable. Why do you think that is?
I think the main reason for that is that the way that Johnny handles his relationships is very personal, and the way that Erica handles her relationships is more strategic, but she's not really following through with much. She's not locking things down. She's not making people feel comfortable. People feel comfortable with Johnny because even though they recognize that he's in good with a lot of people, they're not worried that he's going to come after them or that he's going to make a deal with somebody to go after them or anything like that. But people are concerned about Erica because, she talks a little bit of strategy. She's not super personal. And then she just kind of drifts away. And you're like, well, what is she up to? You're kind of worried about what Erica is up to. You're not really worried about what Johnny is up to because you kind of feel like you can see what he's up to. His cards are laying on the table.
Okay, well, we always talk about the fact that alliances, some people overplay in terms of strategy and they don't really do enough in terms of building social bonds in the house. I really feel like it's interesting that here you have somebody in Erica who maybe I feel like anyway, she's works more on her social bonds than she has worked on her alliances. But because she has not really done either one of them all that well, she might be in a little bit more danger than somebody who's put all their eggs in one basket like Johnny.
Yes, very, very true. All right, so moving on, we have another trio here of Paris, Maddie, and Will. And we talked a lot about Paris. You might want to include her in her own separate category, to be honest. But this is a pretty loyal trio, I believe. I'm pretty sure Maddie will be loyal to Paris. Will be loyal to Paris. And I think Paris is, for the most part, loyal to the two of them, depending on how far the relationship with Jesse goes. But at the moment, they're decently protected. Maddie less so than Will and Paris because she is a bit more out on her own. Will has his connection to the guys and the guys alliance. Paris has her connection to the real deal. And now Paris has also made some more alliances, but Paris seems to be protected on all sides at the moment. Wait until she gets caught, then she might not be. Will is protected. He's got good relationships with Hamza. He's got good relationships with the guys. So Will is protected on both both sides. Maddie is really only protected by Paris and Will. And any influence that Paris and Will might have to protect Maddie. She does have a decent relationship with Kayla, as I've talked about.
Yeah.
But not so much that I think that, that Kayla would like go out of her way to protect Maddie if the other side targeted Maddie or something along those lines. But for the most part, this is basically the other power trio in the house. I think
everyone's favorite, by the way.
Yes, this is the audience favorite power trio, because you've basically got Paris and Will as sort of the Netta and John, and then Maddie is kind of this like super fan underdog, great kind of stuff happening there, and they're also seeming to be aligning with some of the other underdogs, as we'll talk about very soon. When it comes down to it, I think that what we'll probably see from the game is the Derek, Kayla, Jesse trio fighting with the Paris, Maddie, Will trio. And the interesting thing about that is that Paris has connections to both. And which side Paris chooses and which side ends up getting hit first is very interesting.
I just had a question really quickly. Shara in the chat says, "Is Will good strategically or just socially?" And I definitely have an opinion on that. I feel like he's fabulous socially. Strategically, I don't feel like there's much there. He seems like a loose cannon. He seems like he has no clue what he's wanting to do. I've seen him have conversations with people in terms of who are you going to put up, and he sometimes gives a too truthful answer in that I don't know, which doesn't make anybody feel good. And then he'll be like, "Oh, well, I meant the gatecrashers," or "Oh, I meant somebody from over here." I feel he's been saying that he just wants to win HOH just so he can see his son. But in terms of having a thought-out plan, I mean, I feel like if Will wins HOH, that's going to be an HOH that's run top to bottom by Paris and Maddie. I know, right? Maris works as well. Yeah, I like Maris. That sounds hot.
Yeah. Will, very good social. He is very much like John in that respect, where very good socially, and with the right person pointing him in the right direction, he can be very good strategically. But left to his own devices, he's a little bit erratic and a little bit could end up putting himself in danger.
What do you think of Maddie, Melissa? This is the person who is very hungry for the money, really wants to do anything to win. It's not going to let anything stand in her way. She seems to be fairly well insulated with this trio and some bonds she has with the other trio in the house. But I do feel like there are a few people that have brought up her name, but I don't feel like that those people will bring her name up if they get power, because there are so many other targets in the house right now. What do you think of Maddie?
Yeah, I feel like she's okay for right now. I've definitely heard her name brought up a few. Yeah, I think you're right. I think once the people get HOH, there's going to be bigger fish to fry at this point. But I think the fact that her name is already coming up is a little concerning. But, I like her. I like her a lot. And I'm actually really glad that she's not doing that showmance strategy that she was hoping to do.
Not for lack of trying.
I know, right? Yeah. I'm just glad that it didn't really work out, because I like seeing her play on her own. And I just feel like the showmance thing is so tired sometimes. Like, I don't want to watch the feeds when it's, Kayla and Derek. So I'm glad that I want to watch the feeds when Maddie is on, and I'm not like, ugh, okay, next,
Well, I would have said this. If she would have followed through with her, I just want to get a showmance just to move me ahead in the game. And I'm going to be, willing to cut him at any time and be talking to us on camera or the diary room going like, I'm totally using this guy right now. Like, you guys, like, come on. Like, I mean, if that actually happened, that would have been fun to see.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, that would be good. Exactly. I just don't know if that's necessarily what would actually happen. I feel like she would maybe fall for it. I don't know. I'm just glad I don't have to watch it.
I don't know. Of all the people in the house, I don't feel like she would fall for it. It's definitely a possibility, though. But you really have to have some cojones to be able to pull that off, because that if you're like, if the audience, I'm talking about the Big Brother Canada audience, is seeing you, they aren't gonna like you if you're seen as some viper in the house, is just using some poor boy and trying to get what you want. I mean, I think it would be really interesting to watch, though, and I really hope someone does it sometime.
I don't know. I do remember remember a certain person with an S being pretty popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paris, Maddie, and Will is just today have started forming in opposition to this 7-person alliance thing. Paris in particular seemed to be the one that spearheaded it. She started with Veronica, of all people, telling Veronica a lot of things, trying to win Veronica to her side. And this could be a master stroke if it works. The problem is Veronica is a very erratic player, and I don't think you can rely on her to keep information to herself.
She's loyal, though.
Yeah,
I feel like she's loyal, and she might not be the biggest fan of Big Brother, but I do feel like she's loyal. And I was very struck by something that Veronica said, and she repeated it to a couple different people, that she feels like she has to play really aggressive because she was the last person in the house. Now, I don't know if there's any validity to that logic, but it is an interesting tack to take, that she wants to play balls out and she doesn't really care if she goes home the next week. She just wants to make sure that she has some sort of an impact on the game. So if Paris can get somebody like this, a bit of a loose cannon, almost like the female Hamza, to get her pointed in the right direction without any blood on her hands, I feel like I agree with you. That would be a genius move.
Yes. So Paris had this lengthy conversation with Veronica, really getting Veronica on her side and ready to strike at this other side of the house. And Paris has managed to do this without being privy to everything that's going on in the house, but somehow has managed to really be on top of what's going on. And she's managed to essentially help forge two sides of a house that she's in good with both sides, and they're going to be warring with each other. And like I said, it's masterful to watch at the moment. Whether or not she'll be able to keep it up is the question.
Well, the one thing I wanted to be clear, though, is that, to my knowledge, the threesome of Derek, Kayla, and Jesse are aware that Paris is playing outside the lines, right? I mean, that was the whole point of forming this alliance in the first place. We're going to have a 4-person alliance called The Real Deal, and we're going to be loyal to that alliance, just like the Brigade, but we're each going to establish relationships with other people, but just know that you can do that, but you're ultimately loyal to the Force. So I feel like she is in a good spot, because anything that she does, she can just go back to them and say, look, hey, I'm really loyal to you. It's like the Paul game. I'm really loyal to you guys. Don't believe them over there. Obviously, I'm loyal to you, not them. But the mistake in doing that is whenever you give, I've talked about this before with you, Taran, when people give up positional advantage in the game and an informational advantage in a game to somebody like Paris, they really put themselves at a disadvantage because she has options and you don't.
Yeah, I do think that the Kayla Derek pair in particular would be pretty annoyed if they found out the extent of Paris's workings here. The extent, yeah. Yes, because they knew that Paris was working with Will and maybe Maddie a little bit, but I don't think even know just how tight the three of them are, and I think that they definitely at the moment don't have any idea that they are sort of gathering the rest of the lone wolves together. Do you think so, right, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Paris is in just such a precarious position. It makes me really worried for her. But if she can pull it off, then she's like the second coming of Paul, or like the third coming of Paul, and that would be very impressive.
Well, let's not put this on Paul. Let's say like it's more of somebody better than Paul.
Well, I just feel like it is kind of a Paul thing, though, because Paul was pretending he was aligned with every single person. I don't feel like Derek or someone like that was pretending they were aligned with every single person. They were just able to get their message across without pissing everybody off, I guess. But, I just think that it's a similar strategy.
I think Derek was aligned with most of the house most of the time.
He had the battle of the block too. That really helped him to mold the game to his wishes, because nothing could really happen because the fact that the battle. Anyway, we're getting off point, but my point, the point being that I do agree that there are elements to Paul's game that are similar to elements of Paris's game. However, I do think Paris's game is more thought out, more clear, more cohesive, and especially considering this is her first time around, I am really, really impressed by it. Again, it's only week 2. We'll see how it goes, but I feel good about it. I'm not worried about it because I do feel like she can handle it, and that's why I took her first in the draft.
Well, there you go. Yes. So to really illustrate this, Paris had this talk with Veronica. Veronica is totally on board. She is totally with Paris, which, as I mentioned, the Derek, Kayla, Jesse trio, along with Erica and Johnny, they think that they have Veronica on their side. Yes. They think that Veronica is their puppet, and she was stolen out from under them by Paris, and that's no good for them. So Paris picked up Veronica, so Veronica's sort of like dancing to the tune of Paris, Maddie, Will, and then they also are in talks with this other trio that has kind of formed, very powerless trio, but this Hamza, Ryan, Marin trio. Marin has sort of, as I mentioned, hooked up with the Ryan, Hamza, and Andrew, but Andrew's leaving group because nobody else would really take him. And so he kind of got along with these guys. They're kind of the underdogs, and they're just waiting for somebody to come pick him up. So Paris has essentially taken that opportunity. So she's taken Veronica. Will and Maddie have helped out as well, and they've talked. Will especially had a good relationship with Hamza to work with, and they're in talks with Hamza and Marin and saying, guys, we need to stick together. We can't let them pick us off. They're essentially arming them like American politics style. They're arming this side to go after this side, and then playing both sides from the middle, and it's very entertaining to watch. I'm very excited about the possibilities that might stem from this, Melissa.
Yeah, it's really exciting. The one thing is that I feel like it all changes depending on who gets HOH. So like this could all be moot if someone gets HOH like from the real deal or whatever, or that threesome, and then okay, well, now what? I feel like that's the thing, is like so much gameplay happens within each week that ends up being completely meaningless.
Well, I don't, and I'm not trying to push back on you just to push back on you, but I do kind of disagree with that statement, only because I feel like that I could list 7 people in the house right now that no matter who got HOH, they'd be safe. And it's because of the moves and the bonds that they're making right now that will ultimately keep them safe. The people that are going to be vulnerable are the people that are playing Big Brother badly. And I feel like that, anywhere from 1 to 7 of them, or how many people are left, 6, whatever, could be vulnerable depending on who wins HOH. It's the people where it doesn't matter who wins HOH that are playing really well right now. So I feel like that is sort of be admired and applauded, and the people who are in danger depending on who wins HOH, those people are the people that are not playing Big Brother very well.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a game where it's like the strategy doesn't matter because it's just going to come down to competitions, because once the competition is won, there's an obvious move to make, and it's just going to be made. I think this is a situation where all of this stuff is kind of culminating, and it will be influencing what will happen with the next HOH. There are very few people that I think are set in stone with who they're going to target. Yes. I think Hamza will go after the showmans, Derek and Kayla, and that's really about it in terms of like solid. That's definitely going to happen because Hamza is a lone wolf and he doesn't care. But the rest of them, they have this idea, this nebulous idea of the other side of the house. They want to target somebody like that. The Derek, Kayla, Jesse trio, they're talking about targeting Marin, but they could find out that this other side of the house has been organizing, and maybe they need to take a shot at one of the organizers. And the same thing goes for the other side of the house. They might decide, you know what, screw it, we will go after that showmance. Or Paris might have enough influence to get them to target Ali or Olivia. And
that's what I think will happen. Yeah, yes. I think Paris has enough bonds in the house right now that no matter who wins HOH, I do feel like there's a good chance that Olivia is going to go up on the block. God, she has been playing awful right now. Olivia, I'm talking about. And it's all over a boy. So that's always fun. And very, very deep strategic feelings here, Taran, when it's all over a boy. So I'm talking about Jesse, obviously. So correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody told me this. Did Paris have a talk with Olivia and say, basically, you can have Jesse?
Yes.
She did, right? Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. All right. Because I missed this. And then somebody told me about it. And then I'm like, well, so you're not with Jesse anymore. So she said so you said to Olivia that she can take her shot with Jesse, but yet she still seems pissed at her behind closed doors, like, because she feels like she can't even talk with Jesse, correct?
Yeah, she's kind of upset because Olivia had told her like, oh, Erica told me to go for it. And Paris was like, why would Erica tell her that? And then Paris was like, oh no, yeah, you definitely should go for it. And so Paris is like, well, I can't talk to Jesse because then Olivia will get upset with me. That's really annoying. That's a reason Olivia should go. And then she's upset that Erica seems to be having a say in this. Like, what does Erica have to do with this? Why does Erica have so much influence?
Right.
That seems to get her annoyed at Erica, which again brings us back to the complexity, even just within Paris, who seems to be at the center of most things in this game. How much is she doing that for strategy, and how much of this is she doing just because these two girls happen to be the ones that annoyed her about her relationship with Jesse? I don't know for sure right now. It could be either one of them, and that's kind of crazy, Melissa.
Yeah, it was a very strange thing because when Olivia asked Paris's permission essentially to like try it with Jesse, I thought like, that's super cool of her to ask and make sure that everything's cool, go girls, and Paris was really cool about it. And she was just like, do it, go after him. You are totally free. Like, don't worry about me. I'm not interested at all. And Olivia's like, you're sure you're not interested? She's like, not at all. Go for it. And I was like, wow, okay, this is great. And then the rest of the day, I saw Paris, talking bad about Olivia and the fact that Olivia is going for Jesse. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, why did you tell her to go for it? So now I really hope it's a strategic thing because, I don't see a problem with Erica saying, yeah, go for it. It seems like Jesse likes you, and telling Olivia to go for it. I don't see a problem with Olivia asking Paris's permission to go for it and then going for it. Like, I don't know. It better be about strategy or else it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it better be about strategy because then if it's not, then it's catty and then that's no fun to watch. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I feel like it's, I'm sorry, laughing at Intace in the chat saying Olivia asked Paris if she could go after Taran. So that if Jesse doesn't work out, she could always go after you, Taran. Yeah.
I loved last night's podcast where Rob just totally called you out, Taran. That was so funny when he's like, so Taran, I've noticed you the way you talk about Paris on the morning.
I personally think Rob is projecting. I think I remember the way he talked about Ica last season, and I've seen the way that you talk about Jesse on Twitter, Melissa. With his glasses.
I was gonna say, are we not gonna talk about this? I feel like we're bearing the lead here. Jesse had glasses on today.
I saw. He looked like
are
Johnny.
We not all very excited about this?
He looked like Johnny from Big Brother Canada 3.
That's so what I thought.
Important that we pay attention to these glasses.
I mean, he's hot, but I mean, he's sort of physically hot. I'm not really into Jesse because I just feel like I said last night, he's sort of a bitchy straight guy, and I'm not into bitchy straight guys, so. And by the way, I don't think he has any interest in either one of them. I think they should just. I think this is a sham. Them saying to each other, you know what? You can go after Jesse. You can take your shot with Jesse. Please, both of you take your shots with Jesse. He's man enough for both of you. So go after him together and have some fun. I mean, it's Big Brother Canada 6. Let's get down with it.
Yes, Jesse seems to be very popular with the ladies in the house and outside of the house.
Only with glasses on. That's the key, though. He needs to just wear those 24/7 and just never take them off again.
Just, if you ever meet him, just take a really bright light and shine it in his eyes long enough to damage them so that he has to wear glasses for the rest of his life.
That's, evil.
I thought it was interesting what you said about the fact that Veronica was safe with the Kayla, Derek, Jesse contingent because they thought that she was their puppet, and now they might eventually realize that she's actually the puppet of somebody else. That's the thing about puppets. Somebody else can always stick their hand up there behind and, they own them. So,
And I have a feeling that if the target comes down on one of these new people, it will come out that Veronica is just targeting them. I don't know how well she'll be able to hide that secret.
Not well. We'll see. Not good, Bob. Not good.
Yeah.
Not great, Bob.
All right. Well, so let's move on. We'll talk about Hamza, Ryan, and Marin, this sort of trio. They are basically they have all their eggs in the Paris Maddie Will basket at the moment. They have a bond with each other, and they feel like they're completely on the outs. So they're really just willing to jump on board with what Paris and Maddie and Will are telling them, and to take a shot at this other group of 7. And they're just happy that somebody's talking to them, because they feel like they're in danger to go. I mean, Hamza is just happy that people are agreeing with him that he should target the showmance. Ryan is happy that anybody's talking to him, and Marin's also happy that anybody's talking to him. So these are very easy people to pick up, and I think you need to keep an eye on them, but they're very valuable tools in this game, Melissa.
So, Melissa, I was going to ask you, I feel like this is the boring trio. I mean, I know Hamza's not boring, but I do feel like of the 3 trios in the house, this is the one that I care the least about, especially with Marin and Ryan a part of it. But I was so struck by the fact that somebody, I can't remember who's on the feeds, was saying, like, well, they only have, Hamza, Ryan, and Marin. I'm like, that's 3 people. So I think it was the same person who was concerned about, potentially showmances in the house or twosomes in the house. But then you're looking at these 3 guys, all of whom are pretty close to each other. I know it's sort of a loose connection, but it's still a connection nonetheless, and I don't think that they would be willing to go after each other, especially after this week. I feel like it's interesting that they're looking at the 3 of them and not really worried about them. I kind of would be.
Yeah, I mean, just wait until Hamza wins HOH next week, and then they're all going to be worried. So, that's going to be very interesting to watch. For sure.
Yes. So yeah, I think they will stick together. So like I said, when we talk about the trios and the pairs and stuff being together, that's at the moment. I think that when we talk about, them as trios, that trio will stick together, but the alliances between the trios or the pairs might break up or move around. So while Hamza, Ryan, and Marin are currently with Paris, Maddie, and Will, they could end up shifting somewhere else if they find out that Paris is double dealing, or if they find out whatever, if circumstances change.
I wanted to ask, if Marin wins HOH, do you think that Paris can get because Marin is relatively close with Hamza? Do you think that Paris will be able to get the target off of Kayla and Derek and onto Olivia and Erica?
It's an interesting question, because it's hard to know how hard she'll try, because I think that his instinct will be to listen to Hamza and honestly Veronica to some extent, who will be telling him, like, look, you got to target these guys. And I don't know. I don't think that Paris is willing to really stick herself out on a limb to protect them. I think that she might suggest, I really feel like these people are more dangerous, but if she's getting a lot of pushback, I think she'll back off and just be like, sorry guys, man, this is a bummer.
Yeah.
And ultimately at that point decide, I'm sticking with these guys for now, but maybe I'll pick up the remains of Derek and Kayla.
I also wanted to ask, Melissa, what do you think about the fact that Hamza said earlier on the feed that he's going to go after the showmans, but only one part of them? He's going to nominate Kayla and not nominate Derek up beside her. I think that's an interesting tack to take. I don't know that I really buy it though. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I don't really feel like that's a smart idea, because, then, okay, if they both stay, then you have 2 people mad at you. And so it's better to put both of them on the block, and at least you're going to send one of them home, or at least you hope so. And so it doesn't really make sense to me why you would only put one up, although I guess the chat is saying it's because he wants to backdoor Derek. So
I thought he wanted to get Kayla out.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
But if he wants to backdoor Derek, then I guess that makes sense. But still, it doesn't.
I did see the backdoor plan, but I thought that was just a contingent. Like, okay, what if she wins the veto and his name doesn't get drawn? We could always backdoor Derek. I didn't think that was his preference.
Yeah, I think he would prefer Kayla to leave, but
Okay, well, the chat is there's fake news in the chat, so whatever.
It doesn't really matter ultimately, because these plans they're fluid at the moment, and they will formulate if it actually happens. But yeah, I do think that, I mean, there is value to putting up 2 people who are maybe on like opposite sides of an alliance. Like if you put up, Kayla and Erica, or even Kayla and Jesse, then you're going to get infighting in the alliance between who are we going to keep. But the value of that isn't always, it doesn't always work out, because what might happen is the rest of the alliance really bands together, evicts one of those people, and then they're just even closer after that, and now they're coming after you. Whereas the value of definitely getting out one of the pair, one of the Derek or Kayla, is much greater, because you take that pair out, and really Derek should be the target here, because take Derek out and the bond between Kayla and Jesse is a lot less. But Kayla also has a lot of other connections that Derek doesn't have, so it really could go either way.
I love Andrew in the chat about Hamza saying, I appreciate his trying, but his whole "I'm gonna win comps" would carry more weight if he could, win comps.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a coach. He's a soccer coach.
Coach others to win comps.
All right. So then we have the remaining two house guests. I mean, of course, excluding Andrew again. Andrew would be in the trio of Hamza, Ryan, and Marin if he was going to be staying in the house. But he's not, at least at the moment. And if Hamza ends up leaving, then just swap Hamza out for Andrew. But the other two people left in the house are Ali and Olivia. And Olivia in particular, I think, is the person who is probably playing the least amount of game. She, strategically isn't really involved in much discussion. Socially, doesn't have a lot of bonds. I'm not entirely sure what she's doing there.
Get on the show. I don't understand how this person got on the show. She's shown, I mean, very little willingness to play the game. They're afraid of her, I guess, because she's going to law school, but really more afraid of her because she's kind of a mean girl on the feeds, it seems like, and she doesn't really talk to anybody aside from the little group that she has. And I think she also gets jealous easily with the whole thing with Jesse. I mean, I'm more inclined to believe Paris at this point than I am Olivia, and I don't know how much truth there is to what Olivia is saying about in regards to her, Erica giving her permission, and her eventually going after Jesse. I think like she would have gone after Jesse whether Paris gave her permission or not. Come on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's really not much to say about Olivia. However, Ali is somebody that is surprisingly on top of a lot of things. She is integrated into this 7-person alliance with the Derek, Kayla, Jesse trio. She has connections there, but she's not very loyal to it. She is very wary of the Derek Kayla pairing. And she also has connections to the other side. She has talked with Ryan a lot and has tried to help Ryan out. She has talked to people about potentially targeting Derek and Kayla. And there are people on the Paris Maddie Will side that feel like Ali is a good person to have on their side, that Ali is somebody that might flip over. Paris doesn't want that, though. Paris does not want Ali in the picture. Paris is trying to be like, oh, you think that she might be on our side? That's just how good she is. You need to be very careful of her. And that's, of course, because Paris has a connection to Derek, Kayla, and Jesse. She doesn't have that connection to Ali. So there are a lot of different, like, she is involved in a lot of different pots, but she is sort of the person who is kind of, a lot of people know that she has her hand in a lot of different pots. And she's messy, where essentially Paris could be if Paris was a little bit messier and had less social bonds with people. Ali doesn't really have any good, solid connections. I have her by herself, and I have Olivia by herself as well, just because I don't think there's any one person that is just loyal to Ali, that will stick with Ali. And while she's in not necessarily the worst position right now, I think it could all very easily fall very quickly for her if she's not careful, Melissa.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a bit precarious, and I think the fact that she doesn't have such strong social bonds with people is going to hurt her in the end. Because yeah, you could have strategic bonds with people, but the social bonds is what really carries it, and what usually makes people trust you more. So yeah, I think she's in a precarious spot, but she was in a precarious spot last week. And so, the fact that she's not nominated again or whatever is already an improvement.
Yes. So that's basically the structure of the house. I feel like we've covered most of the angles here. I think, like I said, looking at the pairings and the trios and the individuals and where they lie, I think you'll have a good understanding of how the pieces might shift moving forward, going into next week. do your best. Try to make your charts accordingly. But I feel like we've gone into enough detail here, Brent.
Yes, I'm ready to move on to questions or talking about me or whatever.
Yeah, something or other.
For some other very important topic.
Let's briefly talk a little bit more about these house meetings that have been happening, because we kind of glossed over them in the recap, but they're probably worth talking about because I have to imagine that they'll be involved in the episode one way or another. And the first one was Ryan calling out the new players for their obvious lie, and the second one was Veronica calling Ryan out for isolating himself and trying to flip the vote. They both kind of fell flat, but do you guys think that this is a sign of things to come? Do you think that there will be more house meetings, or do you think that the fact that they fell flat kind of discouraged them from happening in the future?
I don't know. I feel like that these are messy, or there are enough messy players where they would be willing to call a house meeting. By the way, let me be clear again. I don't know if we really got this across last night. I was living for Veronica calling the house meeting and be willing and just be having the cojones to be able to call Ryan out in front of all these people when she just entered a couple of days ago. I think that takes real balls. Having said that, of course, it fell flat, and you could ultimately argue that it worked in Ryan's favor to be able to sort of get this out in the open, just like it did the first time around when Ryan confronted the newbies, and it would have been better for him to just let that lie linger rather than him try to air it out and allow them to essentially create a bit of a fresh start with some or even all of the house guests.
Yes. Also, something I forgot to mention. I just saw it on Twitter as we were talking. Cleo the Leo tweeted that Maddie said she's watched several Rob Has a Podcasts to study, and it says the fact that Rob now knows who she is mind-boggling. Look at that.
Oh.
And you know who you are too, Maddie. I'm sure she.
Yeah. What about us?
Yeah.
That was seriously one of the highlights of like anything ever when Kevin Martin like called us out on the live feeds. I was like, oh my God.
Brent is the villain of the podcast.
I forgot about that. Yeah, anyone who's why I didn't like him. Why was rooting for Karen? Girl, bye.
And
no,
he was like,
a necessary part.
I know. I
remember. He was like, and I remember he was talking about it with like Cass or Netta or somebody earlier in the season, and like he knew my name then, and then the second time he brought it up, he's like, that new girl.
The new girl.
Like, I think she's a lawyer. She has some good things to say. And I was like, my name's Melissa.
Look, he was clearing his head for all the information for the competitions. He had to ditch some stuff.
True.
And apparently Johnny also knows who Rob is, but probably not us.
Well, then he doesn't know the important parts.
All right. Well, moving forward, we have a stock watch here, and I've been messaged some different ideas for what to do with the stock watch. I wanted something that was still pretty simple, and still got the point across of what we were trying to discuss. Ultimately, Edward on Twitter messaged me this idea of essentially like buying actual stock in one of the cast members each week. I sort of modified the idea, so bear with me. Let me know if you like this idea, chats, and the two of you. The basic premise is every single week on the stock watch, we will have the ability to buy one piece of stock in one player. And then every subsequent week, we can trade one stock. So we can, if say I bought one stock in Johnny, next week I could trade that stock from Johnny to Erica because I think Erica's doing a better job. And then I could buy another one on Erica, or I could buy another one on, say, Derek. So each week we have the ability to trade one stock and buy one stock. And then at the end of the season, whoever has the most amount of stock bought in the winner of the season will win the stock watch.
I like it. We can trade and buy each week, or we can trade or buy.
You can trade and buy, but you can only trade one at a time. So if you have like 5 bought in Johnny, and then Johnny's going to be leaving this week, you can only trade one of them off of Johnny. And if you have stock in the person who goes home that week, you lose that stock. It's done. You only have 9 pieces total because there's only going to be 9 round tables. So you got to be careful about how you spend your stock. And hopefully, I know it's complicated.
It's not that complicated. Please,
Yes.
the chat's already complaining.
You just have to keep track of it.
We're just going to pick one person every week. So I'm going to pick one person. Taran's going to pick one person. Melissa's going to pick one person every week that we're going to buy stock in, who we like the best to win the game. And we're also going to grade each house guest on whether or not they're up or down from their previous week's performance in the game. That's all we're doing.
Yes, this is like Secret Hitler, where you try to describe it and it sounds super complicated, but when you watch it, it'll be very simple. And anyone that wants to make graphics for this, go ahead and send them to us. Maybe I'll try and put them up on the screen when we talk about it, just to get a good sense of
I like
and who's got stock where.
Doom Tribe in the chat says, "Is this the Milton Bradley game of the week?" Yes, and in fact, it's going to be the game of the week every week. So you're in business. You're in luck.
Yes, and we're as we talk about each individual player, we'll also talk about where, as Brent mentioned, like what they've been doing since last week. Do we think they've improved their game? Like, have they gone down, or do they stay? Essentially, this is us giving our advice on the stock market. Is this a person you might want to buy? And we'll talk about it that way. So let's get started. We'll get right into it. Hopefully, this makes sense. You'll understand it. So let's start off with Ryan, the HOH. This is the baseline for Ryan. I think that we've all pretty much said this is a no good. You don't want to buy Ryan. If you already have Ryan stock for whatever reason, you should be selling it, right, Brent?
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking to the chat room right now.
Sell it.
We're selling Ryan. Yes.
Sell Ryan.
But we don't have any Ryan stock. Yes. We're comparing Ryan's performance this week to his performance last week. Obviously, he won HOH, so that's good, but he's played horribly, and ultimately I have to come down. Yeah, on the downside of things.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, like I do think that he has a good chance of surviving for now, but he definitely has not displayed the ability that you want of a player to win the game. So
he's revealed that he's not actually a super fan. So this whole time I was thinking, but maybe he's got some sort of plan because he's seen the show. He watches the feeds. He knows what's up. Well, he hasn't. So he's also a liar.
Brent's having full-on conversations in the chat. I can't even follow it.
I got distracted by something. Sorry.
All right. Well, next up, let's talk about Andrew, who, again, I think is a pretty easy one. I think we all agree he's out the door this week.
Get him out of here.
Yes.
Yeah,
of course, they're both mine, and they're both mine in the draft. Great.
Yeah, shouldn't be buying.
I'm just cleaning house and just getting rid of those players so I can keep my real players and only focus on them. That's the plan.
Yes. Worth noting that the two of you by the end of this week will probably have lost 2 people each, and I'll have my full team remaining.
Wow. Oh, good for you. I'm very glad you brought that up.
All right, let's talk about Hamza, who is on the block, theoretically could go home this week. Definitely has been on the list of targets, but as the week has progressed, I feel like a lot of people on both sides have considered him somebody that they don't want to waste an HOH taking out. They think that he's not a huge threat, and a lot of people seem to like him. Brent, what do you think of Hamza?
Yes, it's very tough because I'm thinking about his performance to last week, and I'm stuck on this one. I don't know if he's played better or worse. I'm going to ultimately come down on the side of better because I don't feel like he's such a social pariah in the house. On the other hand, he does want to target the showmans, and considering that showmans has connections to a lot of people, that might then cause him to be targeted. So, but ultimately, I'm going to come down on the side of positive and give him a grade of up this week.
Melissa.
Yeah, I think he's building more bonds with people. I mean, I know that he's not really in any of the main alliances, but I've seen him have conversations with people. And I think the fact that he was so seemingly cool about Ryan putting him on the block and all that sort of stuff didn't really cause any waves. And during the house meeting was kind of like, hey, it's all right. I'm not mad. Don't worry about it. I think that worked in his favor. And I think people are starting to be like, you know what? We have bigger fish to fry than Hamza this week. So I think that all works in his favor. So I guess he would be someone who played better this week than last week, I think.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think Hamza's stock has risen in the game. That said, I don't know about his long-term potential. I think that he still is somebody that the second he does get power, I think he's likely going to overuse it or overextend himself. I love the idea of him just going straight after the showmances, but I think once he does, people will think, he's outlived his usefulness. Now he's a bit dangerous because we don't know where he's going to strike next. So he'll need to be worried. He needs to be more like Godfrey, where he states his target, but never actually does anything to get them out. Because if he actually succeeds with his goal, I think that's when he starts to become more.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that tack, because if he says, "Hey, I'm going after the showmance," and lets everybody know that, then nobody's going to come after him, because they're like, "Well, I know what's going to happen if he gets HOH. He's going to go after the showmance. So why would I waste an HOH on him when he could do my dirty work for me?" But if he does it himself, then his intentions are a bit less clear.
Yeah, I already heard people saying that exactly. Saying like, I don't want to wait. Let's not waste an HOH on Hamza next week. So I think that's when you start hearing that about yourself, that's awesome news, because that means they're just going to keep you along. And then eventually, you're at the end and they were like, oh, shoot, we didn't want to waste an HOH, but now this person's here. So I think that's really good for him.
All right, let's move on to Kayla, who has had an interesting game so far. She's in this showmance with Derek. She's in this trio. We've talked about her position in the house. She seems like a very strong player. However, that might come across very intimidating to a lot of people. And I don't know how long she can keep this game up. What do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I think that at the beginning of the week, I was like, oh, this is really good because, she's in with a bunch of people, but I'm not really hearing her name that much. So I don't feel like people are really thinking about her. And I think she can kind of blend in the background. But then the fact that she's in the showmance and the fact that it's really kind of the only showmance, that is scary. When there's a bunch of showmances, it's like, okay, everyone's in their own pairs. No one really cares. But to be the only showmance, that's a little concerning. And so the fact that there's also the possibility that people are going to try and get Derek out because they see his connections with the guys. They see that he's a strong competitor or whatever. And when they can't get Derek out, the next person to get out is Kayla. So that's scary. So yeah, but I kind of would buy her though, because she does seem like she has a lot of connections and she's really not in danger right now. So I think I would buy her. I think she's I think
I would ultimately I would grade her as being worse this week than she was last week, only because I feel like that it is problematic for her that she is the only showmance in the house currently. I was thinking back to John Krause's live update with you in the morning, Taran, where he was worrying about the fact that all these people might pair off and it might become a bit of a predictable season with everybody teaming up into showmances. I'm glad to see that that's actually not the case. Mm-hmm. And we only have one pair in the house, but for that one pair, I can't imagine this is good news. And I am a little bit worried about Kayla from the standpoint that I think she's a really great, fun player. She's a fan of the game, and I'm kind of bummed that it seems like she's getting caught up in the Derek of it all, when I feel like there's so much more of her to offer. I think the best thing for her would be for Derek to go home, and then she could really spread her wings, but I don't know if that will even happen.
Yeah, I think that Kayla is somebody that is one of the power players in the house, and she could rise to power even more, especially if she ends up if this ends up like a Jillian Emmett kind of pairing where they're very good at competitions. I think that could be very good for them. However, right now, what it looks like is that there are more capable challenge people in the house, and I'm not super confident about her ability moving forward. I think she has gone down from when this week started with all of this sort of opposition forming against them where that didn't exist before, and she seems to be oblivious to it at the moment. So I would say her stock is down right now. But she is one of the power players in the house. So be on the lookout for Kayla moving forward. She's
very tenuous. Her position in the house is very tenuous. I feel like even more so than Paris.
Yes.
If you're talking about, I know Paris is juggling all these balls, but I have confidence in her ability to do so. Kayla, on the other hand, I feel like is a bit of a power player, but that I feel like it could evaporate at any moment.
Yes. All right. Moving forward, let's talk about Erica. And I do want to remind you that, like, once we get to the player, the one player that you want to buy for the week, just go ahead and say that as we're talking.
I know.
About
I'm
them.
waiting.
Okay. So let's talk about Erica, who won the veto this week and seems to be doing decently well socially. But as we mentioned, she is one of the people that seems to be vulnerable heading into next week. She's another person who seems to have the social ability and competition ability to do well in the game, but her position isn't the greatest at the moment. That said, I personally think that she has risen from where she started, because when she started this week, she was talking with Hamza and Andrew, and like she was in tight with them, and she was like, I gotta try and get in with these other people. And Hamza was like, you'll never be able to. They don't get along with us. But she has been able to. She has been able to get in with those people. She's made some enemies in the process, but the fact that she was pulled into this Derek, Kayla, Jesse trio, I think is a good thing for her. And if she gets pulled into more things, then this could end up well. I think she's somebody that, maybe a little bit up, maybe just kind of neutral for the most part, because she's gone up and down over the course of the week. What did you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I really like Erica. I like what she's doing, and I feel like, I like the way that she can relate to people and the way she talks to people, and I think that that'll definitely help her. I like that she kind of has connections with a bunch of outsider people, and while she's in a little bit of danger, I don't really see her being the next target, really. So I like what she's doing, and I'm hopeful for her. I think she has the social ability to, ingratiate herself with everyone. So, yeah, I think she's playing better. I think that I would buy her.
I would not buy her
because buy one. I
right,
don't know. How are
yeah.
you phrasing this? Or
You're
doing better?
You're grading her up or down?
Okay,
up or down.
up.
That's all you can do. Yeah. There is no hold, by the way. I saw Antasis in the chat saying, hold. There is no hold. No fancy Fencerton. It's either up or down. So I would say down for Erica. I'm saying down for Erica because I feel like she's too intense. She cries a lot. She gets people's attention. There is no way a person like this can fade into the background. She's always going to be at the forefront of people's thinking. There's no way she's going to get to the end of the game. And she's messy enough where she's not creating any sound, strategic structures within the social bonds that she is maintaining in the house right now. I like the fact that she is a social player, and that's good. On the other hand, I feel like she's messy enough where she's not really doing much with those. So I would not buy her, and I would grade her down.
All right. Let's move on to Derek, the other half of the Kayla Derek showmance. Derek, from the beginning of the week, he seemed to be in good with most people. At the end of the week, seems like he's got at least one person targeting him. Again, they have this sort of whole faction that's maybe forming this thing against the Derek, Kayla, Jesse trio kind of thing. Derek's place in the house seems to be pretty solid, apart from the couple of people that are willing to take a shot at him. But his social game has been pretty strong. So, Brent, how do you feel Derek has done this week?
I feel I'm going to grade him down, and the reason being is because it's the same as Kayla. Just by virtue of being the fact that you're the only showmance in the house, how can you not be aware that that's a problem? I know his social game is strong, and he gets along well with people, and I'm not even sure he would be evicted if he was on the block next to Kayla. So that would be good for him, and he doesn't seem to be a fan of the show. In fact, I know he's not a fan of the show. So I can't imagine people are really going to fear him going forward comp-wise, and as was pointed out by the trio of Will, Maddie, and Paris, even though you might fear him, he hasn't really won anything, neither has Kayla, so why are we paying attention to them right now? So it is close, but ultimately I cannot give a positive grade to somebody who I feel like sticks out like a sore thumb as the only showmance in the house, so it's a down for me.
Melissa, what do you think?
I think he's in a precarious position, but at the same time, I think he's formed some good bonds with people, and I think that the fact that he's in a showmance is a double-edged sword. I think it really could go either way. I think it helps him, but it also hurts him. But I think that his bonds with all the guys in the house is that's really going to help him. I feel like the girls, while there are bonds between certain girls, there's not like a full-on, we're all girls, we're bonded together. And I feel like for the guys, Will and Jesse and Derek are pretty tight. And so I think, I'm up on Derek, I think.
Yeah, Derek to me is somebody that started very high, one of the highest positions in the house. I think he has fallen a little bit, but I do think that ultimately his position is still a pretty high stock, even though it's gone down this week. He had a long way to fall, and I don't think he's fallen all the way down yet. And I think the same was true of Kayla as well. But let's move on to Jesse, the third of this trio. Jesse seems to be somebody that's in a very nice, comfy position, deep within this 7-person alliance, the trio, the real deal. He's got great social connections with a lot of different people. Jesse seems to be somebody that you really need to look out for. And Melissa, you love him too with glasses. So what do you think of Jesse?
Yeah, with glasses, Jesse. Like, are we talking about with glasses, Jesse, or Jesse without glasses? No. But for real though, I think he's in a really good place. I haven't really heard anybody speak negatively about him or mention that he's on their radar or anything like that. People seem to want to include him in things, but they're not worried about him. So, I think he's in a pretty nice spot. So I actually am going to use my little token and buy him.
All right. Melissa is buying Jesse with glasses.
With glasses. That's the caveat right there.
Well, I would buy him as I'm not going to buy him, but I would grade him as up as well. I think that everyone is just like totally digmatized by Jesse in the house. The straight people too. They really are, because everyone is just in love with him. He's such a swell guy. I can totally see why casting what they saw in this guy. He's just really, really likable. And as was noted on this podcast, when you're likable, people like you. So I think that it's wonderful for him. And I think he's going to go far in the game, jury at least. And I could even see him making it to the end. But in order, like I've just learned on Big Brother, that you have to be able to win some comps and at least be smart enough to know about the show a little bit. Pax Brothers, but they were still a little bit. I feel like they were fans enough. Where you have to be willing to you have to be able to win some comps at the end to win the game, and I don't know necessarily that he'll be able to do that. So I'll still buy him though, but I'll still grade him as up, but I'm not going to buy this person yet.
Yes, I think Jesse's another person that started high, and he's really only risen. Even though there's opposition against this trio and everything like that, I think he is probably one of the more protected people, if not the most protected person in that group of 7.
Because he has friends, and he has guy friends. He has a showman's pair with him, and he's not in a showman's himself. I mean, there are girls that want him, but that's great for him. Like, let him, just let him keep wanting you. Don't give in. Don't give him the milk, and make sure they buy the cow. It's that kind of thing,
Yeah. Sure. So yes, I'm also up on Jesse. My main concern with Jesse long term is his strategic ability. So that's the only reason I think I might refrain from buying him. Just like Brent said. So moving forward again, let's talk about Paris. The other person.
Bye.
Paris had another strong start, and I think this is probably debatable. This might be controversial. Has she risen or has she fallen? I think technically right now she has risen, but it is a tenuous rise, and it could it's a high risk stock. It could plummet at any moment, Melissa.
Yeah, I feel like she's risen, but she's like on a tower of tiny little sticks. And so I feel like, one big breeze and, that stick tower could crumble. And she's in a lot of danger, maybe more so than some other people who maybe are rising and could fall. I think she is in a very dangerous spot. So, but I do think she has gone up. So I've got to say that she's up. But, it's very scary.
I have full confidence in her ability, and this is why I'm using my token to buy Paris. I think the best thing that she did this week was get out of that showmance. I like the fact that she's not in a showmance anymore. She still has great bonds with Jesse. She's friends with him. She's friends with the other showmance in the house, but she's not somebody where people look at them and go, oh, they're together. So she wouldn't necessarily be put on the block if, say, somebody went after Jesse, which no one is at this point anyway. What do you all like? I have no idea. Okay, I think I see what you're talking about. So anyway, moving on. I think that look, I took her at number 1 in the draft for a reason, because I can't look at the chat because y'all are making me laugh. I took her number 1 in the draft for a reason, because she is somebody who has a set plan in the house and she knows what she wants to do. I feel like she has all the information currently in the house right now, and I don't think that she's going to be caught. I feel like she's a good enough player where she can wiggle her way out of anything that is sort of quote unquote found out about her. And I really don't think people are going to come after her. Again, go back to the HOH competition. People view her as stupid, easily manipulated. This is not somebody who's going to be targeted anytime soon. And with her ability to win comps down the stretch, I would totally count on her. I like high risk people, and she's definitely a high risk right now. She's like not like Josh, but the risky part is what I'm talking about. That's like Josh from BB19, where it's a very high volatility pick. But that's like, even when I'm a slot player, that's the kind of slots I gravitate to, are the ones that are, either like you win a bundle or you get your butt kicked 99% of the time. So I like that about her, and I think she even has more of an ability to win more than Josh does. So I'm psyched about Paris.
Yes, and make sure you join the chat room on robhasawebsite.com if you want to make me and Melissa crack up during Brent speaking. Yes, I agree. I think Paris is up. I'm not ready to buy her just because it is a high volatile stock, and I prefer to take the more cautious approach if possible.
Oh, shocker.
So let's move on to Maddie, who I really love. Maddie, I really love the position that she is in for the most part. I love her ability. I love her knowledge of the game. I love that I love the way that she plays. But she is she's on people's radar, and that's not the greatest thing. I think she has risen from where she started. I think that, she showed the ability to manipulate Ryan in a way that never came back to her. I think that's really great stuff. She is involved in a couple different alliances, a couple different places where she's well protected in some areas, and she has good social connections, and that's a good thing too. She's kind of like secretly she's doing well, but she's not the best socially. She's not the best strategically. I don't know how she is with the competitions, but I think that's a great place to be, where you don't really stand out in any one particular area. And I think that's going to be Maddie's biggest strength moving forward. Her only flaw right now that I can see is that she is on some people's radar. And with some bad luck, she could end up on the block next week or in a couple of weeks. So that's where I see Maddie. Brent, do you agree?
I agree with everything you said, which isn't something that happens frequently. I think that and I'm not trying to make a joke, but that it's true that doesn't happen a ton. I think that Maddie is, I have full confidence in Maddie. In fact, if I didn't buy Paris, I was probably going to buy Maddie because as a fan of the show, and as a fan of the show who knows what she's doing, not a fan like Ryan. Okay. So as a fan of the show who knows what she's doing, I do feel like that she has a leg up on so many of the other house guests. And I know that her name has been brought up by a few people, but again, I do feel like she has to get pretty unlucky to be evicted at this point. I mean, she could be nominated, but to be evicted, I feel like that would be, I can't, it's hard for me to see that happening, but not impossible. So overall, I'm going to grade her as up, but there is like a 5% part of me that worries about her.
Yeah, I'm going to grade Maddie up as well. I like Maddie a lot. I like what she's doing. My one concern is the fact that she doesn't seem to be so tight in with people, and also the fact that I've heard her name said a few times. So that concerns me. But overall, I really like what she's doing. I love how she updates us when she's by herself in a room.
Yes.
And same with Paris. But so I'm a fan of Maddie, what she's doing so far, and I'm very glad that she's not in a showman. So that's nice. So yeah, Maddie's up for me.
Yes, Maddie is up. Let's move on to Will. Will, who is the John Party of the season. He's very good socially. He's in a lot of different alliances. He's in a lot of different deals. Will, another person that started the game very high, I think. The question is, has he gone down or up over the course of the week, Melissa?
I feel like he's gone up because I feel like he has made friendships with people and alliances with people, and I feel like he's not really on anyone's radars that I can tell. I haven't really heard his name thrown around a lot, which is kind of surprising because he's like a strong guy, so you'd think he would, but I haven't really heard it. And I guess my one concern for him is I've heard that he's kind of like raring to go to start making big moves and playing, which we would love to see, but I don't know if that'll go well for him if he just starts like, guns blazing, everyone's got to go sort of thing. So we kind of have to wait and see. But at this point, he's up. So I'm going to vote him as up.
The great thing about Will is that he's seen as a valuable tool by other people. I mean, he's not a tool, but he's a really cool guy, and he's well liked in the house. And I think that nobody is really threatened by him. As far as people who he's going to nominate, I think he's been saying the gatecrashers, which makes everybody else feel really wonderful. And I feel like he's again on a similar trajectory to Party. But does he have someone who's willing or able to lead him in Paris and or Maddie? He's got two options at this point. I don't know if either one of them will be successful. I'm hopeful. Again, if I was going to take one of the girls, I would take Will. Will was close to me for a bye. I think that he's a really swell pick. And again, the thing about Big Brother Canada, unless they've changed it from last season, and there's no evidence to say that they've changed anything about last season, they're probably going to have the same kind of comps down the stretch. And who's going to win that? Probably somebody not like Will.
Yes, and I also agree. I think Will is up from the for over the course of the week, but he is another person who I think could, if he wins an HOH and just takes a wild swing, it could really start to tank the stock. So he's up for now, but I'm not super optimistic about further growth at the moment. I feel like play from him.
Any HOH that Will wins is going to be not his own. And that's great for him because other people will see him as not being the one who got blood on his hands. It was somebody else's doing. And I do feel like the Paris or Maddie will be able to point him in the direction that he needs to go without getting himself in too much danger.
I don't know. He talks more than almost anyone about like playing his own game. So
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that's all talk or what.
Yeah. Once he gets power, I feel like that they will get their meat hooks in him.
Yeah, because there were a lot of people in season 16 that thought they were playing their own games, and Derek convinced them to all play his games. So you never know.
Let's move on to Veronica, who moved into the house this week.
Just kidding.
Honestly, from my perspective, I think Veronica is up. I think that she's up because Veronica, unlike a lot of the people we've talked about, started very low. I think she started about as low as it gets, and it's only gone up from there. It could drop back down at some point, but right now she has one side of the house thinking she's their puppet, the other side of the house thinking that she's their puppet, and I think there's a decent chance that she just completely crashes next week. But I think for the moment she's up. Do you agree, Brent?
Yes, and I think the worst thing about Veronica would be if she wins HOH. Then she's going to get a lot of attention on her. I hope that she tries. I hope she goes for it. But if you're a fan of Veronica, I hope that she does not win HOH because I don't feel like that would be good for her. The best thing for her would be like, well, I'm willing to do this for you guys. I'm loyal and I'm going to compete hard, but never actually do anything in the house. So, but I don't know. I think it would be fun to have a Veronica HOH. I will say that she's won me over at this point. I think she's very much my kind of player. She's very, very messy. Doesn't know a whole lot about the game, so I don't enjoy that part as much. But she has a lot of spunk and a lot of fire, and it makes me smile when she's on the feeds, and she does light up the room for me anyway when she's on the feed. So I have to give it up to her. And I do see what casting saw in her, even if they found her in some bar in the middle of nowhere. But whatever. She's in the house and she's impressing me.
All right. Melissa, what did you think of Veronica?
Yeah, I would say that she's up, but only because she was so far down.
Yeah.
She was just so bad. Like calling that house meeting and all this other stuff. It's just like, what are you doing? You're doing a terrible job. But, the fact that now people are seeing that they could use her for something, and she's really not on most people's radar as someone they want to get out next week. So I think that, while initially they were, because they were like, let's just get the gatecrashers out. Let's just kick them right back out. Now they're not really thinking that about her. And now it seems like they're seeing her as just a tool. So I think that bodes really well for her moving forward. And so, she's up.
Yeah, so Veronica is up because she basically started from everybody wants her out to like maybe half, maybe less than half of the people want her out. So she has improved over the course of the week.
Hey, just really quick, I have a question about the logistics of this thing. So what happens if one of the people that we have stock in gets out? Do we get that stock back or we lose them?
It's gone forever.
Man, okay.
Yes. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah, so you got to switch him off of everyone who's nominated that week, I guess. Just
you can only move one, so yeah.
That's the day. You have to be careful about who you put it into, because you could lose it all. All right, so moving on to Marin, the other new player in the house. Marin is somebody that started the game also pretty low, but how do you think he's moved from there, Brent? Has he gone up or down?
I'd say he's gone up, and I feel like he's a sweet enough boy where he's not a boy, he's a guy. Yeah, I just see him as being so angelic and having no real information about the show before he goes in, that he seems a little bit naive to me. But having said that, I feel like he's done a great job at seeming like he's just one of the guys in there. And even though he's not in any of the what I would consider the power places in the house, I do feel like he is liked enough by the people in the house where nobody really has a hard on to want to get rid of him. You know what I mean? Like there's no real fire to go after him, where I do feel like there's fire to go after other people. He might end up on the block as a nominee, as a pawn, but I don't feel like he's ultimately in danger.
Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's tough because if he wasn't a gatecrasher, I would think, this guy is playing really well because no one's really noticing who he is. He's not really in any of the alliances, which isn't great, but at the same time, he's not really in any of the alliances, so no one really cares. Because he's a gatecrasher, he's always going to have that on him. He's an easy person to put up if someone wants an easy HOH week with no blood on their hands, because all they have to do is say, well, Marin and Veronica, you guys were the gatecrashers. You guys came in late. I don't know what you guys know. I don't know if you saw things that we don't know about. Like, you guys you lied to us when you came in. Like, I just think we need to put you guys up, or whatever they want to say. It's a very easy move. So that makes me a little concerned for his possibilities moving forward. But, I think he's done pretty well in terms of making it so that he's really not that seen as a huge threat. Whereas Veronica has made sure to put herself right out there in the forefront for everything. And Marin's kind of faded into the background. The one problem with Marin, I guess, is that he's kind of hitched his wagon onto this Ryan Hamza sort of thing. And they're not really vibing well with the rest of the house. So that makes me a little nervous for him. But I guess overall, he's done better than he was at the start of the week. So I would say up.
Yeah, I think I would say Marin is down, because I think he came into the house with a lot of different possibilities. I think a lot of people liked him a lot more than Veronica, and a lot of people talked about targeting Veronica ahead of Marin. But now, toward the end of the week, I think more people are talking about targeting Marin over Veronica, and I think that's a poor job on his part. He has hitched his wagon to the losing side, and he is one of the main targets on the losing side, and I think that's not a great look for him. I think he had more upside than that. So I'm going to say Marin is down, but he started very low in the first place also, so it's not a huge change for both him. I mean, him and Veronica are basically at the same point now. I think they've crossed streams.
Yeah, but Veronica is way more fun to watch on the feeds. Like, Marin is,
if you like her, sure.
I feel like Marin is a snooze. Okay.
There's a difference between being a snooze and being somebody that just like annoys me when they freestyle. So
yeah, I did not watch the freestyle, so I purposely did not watch it.
I love the absurdity of it all. That Taran's so mad about that, having just interviewed Hoodie Allen on the Taran show recently.
I've been introduced to great rapping, great freestyling. I watched an interview where he totally killed it. Now I've got to listen to Veronica. It's like night and day. All right, we've got 3 people left. Let's talk about Allie, who we've talked about. Allie was in a strange position to begin with, and I think a strange position to end the week with. What do you think about Mally? What do you think about Allie, Melissa?
I'm a little surprised that she hasn't blended in more with everybody. I kind of, from her initial interviews and everything, I thought that she was really personable and really seemed like she'd be able to get along with everyone, but I don't know why she's not bonding more with everybody. I don't know. I feel like she can talk with people and have like fun conversations, but I don't feel like she's getting really close to them, and I don't feel like they're really letting her in. So I'm a little concerned with her. But I do think she's up because last week she was on the block and this week she's not on the block, and I don't necessarily see her being on the block next week. So yeah, I think she's up.
Brent?
Yeah, I don't know. She is such an enigma to me, Allie. I don't know what to make of her. I think I'm inclined to give her a grade of up simply because by virtue of the fact that she was a nominee last week, and there were people in the House who were trying to flip the vote on her, and then the House voted overwhelmingly to save her. This week she does seem to be a little bit more integrated into various alliances or groups of people in the House. But I agree with Melissa that it does seem like she has trouble getting close to people. And more than anything, I see her gravitating to that crazy outsider threesome, which to me indicates that she might be having problems, creating bonds with the people that she was initially hanging out with in the first place. I mean, I don't think she's playing horribly. I think I'll grade her as being up overall, but I don't love what I'm getting from Allie, Taran. Well, what do you think of her?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. This is a hard one to judge, up or down. I think, I think you're basically saying she's like slightly up. I think I would say she's slightly down. I think that heading into this week, she had, you can't fault her too much at the start of this week for not having a lot of, personal connections with people. You can fault her a bit more at the end of this week. It's been 2 weeks in the House now. A lot of other people are forming those personal bonds, and she doesn't seem to be doing that. So if anything, like by lack of progress, she is declining in the stock price here. And while she does have decent strategic connections to people, I do think she is in a lot of trouble, even just heading into next week. I think that Paris will be pushing a target onto her. I think that she is somebody that a lot of people will feel comfortable just putting up, and that's not a good sign for her. And I could see her theoretically as somebody that goes home next week. So I do think it is a slight decline here. All right. Let's move on to Olivia.
You're gonna buy this one, aren't you?
Olivia,
this is the one.
It's hard. Olivia is the one who has been playing the game. I think I love this cast. I think almost everyone is contributing in their own great way, except for probably Olivia. I think that so far she has been a big flop here. I guess I would say she is theoretically up from the start of the week, given that she was in a position to potentially be backdoored and targeted, and now she's potentially not. So that's good for her. But I think she started very low, and I think she's ending very low as well, Brent.
Yeah, I agree with all that. There really isn't much to say. I think she's playing pretty badly. She's not really trying hard at the game. This just seems like summer camp to her. Her motives seem anything but strategic. They always seem personal. And at least I know other people. Here's the thing: perception is reality in the House, and there are some people who perceive her as being personal and jealous with her intentions and or her moves. So if that's true, then you at least have to own the fact that you might be contributing to that perception. I think she's totally oblivious to that, and I can't see her making it to jury.
Melissa?
Yeah, I guess
down, obviously.
I guess up, just because she was potentially going to be backdoored, and so she was potentially leaving this week. And she's not. But I am a little concerned about her. But at the same time, I don't know if I see that she's playing badly. I don't know if she's playing well.
I don't know if she's playing.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing, is I feel like it's possible that she is, and we are just thinking she's not because we're seeing all these more obvious games. But I don't know. So I think I'm just gonna say that she's up and then hope for the best.
All right. Finally, we have the person I am going to buy this week, and that is Johnny. We talked about Johnny. He seems to be probably one of the safest people in the House. He's got a lot of great personal connections. He has a couple of good strategic connections as well. He really just was able to come out of, winning that HOH and the veto with no target on his back. Nobody's talking about him as a physical threat. Nobody's talking about him as a necessarily strategic threat. I do think, as I mentioned, that his social threat will rise over the course of the game, and he'll need to deal with that eventually. But right now, I'm very confident in Johnny's ability to stay in the House and to continue to make connections. And when everything blows up, I think Johnny is the person most in the most prime position to start picking up pieces and, being able to fit in to whatever forms after the blow up. So I think Johnny has continued to rise over the course of the week, and I'm going to be purchasing him for my piece of stock this week. Melissa, how do you feel about Johnny?
Yeah, I definitely feel like he's up this week just because last week I was really concerned with him winning both HOH and Veto. I was like, what are you doing? But he's been able to totally turn it around, and I have no idea how people don't see him as a threat right now, because especially like a comp threat, because he won 2 comps the first week. So you'd think that people would see him as a threat, but they're just not. And I have no idea why. And he's able to bond with people. And I always see him in the rooms with, everyone having the giant conversations, and he's always talking with people. And, then he's also talking one-on-one with people. And I like that it seems like he's friends with everyone, but isn't so ingrained in any of these big threat alliances. So I feel like that'll work out well for him once they start, kind of warring with each other. So yeah, I think he's up this week for sure.
I think he's up as well, but I didn't want to purchase Johnny, and here's the reason why. I do feel like he's a little bit too smart for his own good, and he believes his own hype. Like when he was in the diary room talking about like, oh, I'm going to act sad now, and this is the sad puppy face. And, it's having the gall to go out there and win HOH and Veto, especially when he didn't need to win the Veto in the first place. He's sort of lucky. I don't know if he's lucky, or maybe you could argue, I wouldn't buy it, but you could argue that he won both HOH and Veto knowing that his social game was going to be strong enough to pull him through and get the target off of him. Anyway, I mean, it's sort of amazing to me that people aren't thinking about him as a threat in the game right now, but I don't think that will last. I think anytime that his name gets brought up, that people will quickly flash back to week 1 where he won back-to-back competitions and say, yeah, we really we need to make sure we don't sleep on this guy. So I don't think that he will win the game.
Yeah. Another thing to think about is, if he decides that every competition he's going to go all out, because that's what it seemed like he did the first week when he didn't need to, especially for the Veto. So if he decides that every competition he's going to go all out and try and win, that's going to put a big target on his back. So we kind of have to wait and see what his strategy is in regards to the competitions. Like maybe it was just because this is the first week, I want to just show that I'm strong, but then I'm going to like fade in the background. Like, I don't know what his plan was, but if that's the case, and that was just like a fluke, and now he's going to kind of just stay in the background and only win when necessary, then that's great. That's fine. But if he decides that like he wants to win everything, he wants to be in power whenever he can, like, that's not going to be very good for him.
All right, so that is the stock watch for the week. Again, feel free to send in your charts to us on Twitter at Armstrong Taran if you want to send those in. I'll hopefully pick one and throw it up on the screen next time if I'm able to, that we talk about this, so you can get an idea of where things are heading throughout the course of the game. Now let's get into a couple of questions before we wrap this up. We've got one from Tom Palmer on Twitter who asks, is Hamza playing a good game for Big Brother Canada? It seems he seems to have completely owned the underdog role, which could get him some superpowers down the road. Do we think that Hamza is playing well in order to get a sort of voted power, because he is the self-proclaimed underdog? He's the lone wolf. Is that going to work out for him, Brent?
I don't know. I don't know that you can play Big Brother Canada with the hopes of winning a power later on in the game and being likable enough. I mean, he is sort of just this cool guy who is a loose cannon and willing to sort of do whatever he wants. Above all, he does not want to play like Big Brother 19. He doesn't want to be made a fool of by some people and told what to do by other people. So he, above anybody else, is going to do his own thing. So I think that Canada obviously likes that. However, he was in so much danger the first 2 weeks and became a nominee that I can't say that he's playing a great Canadian game right now, because ultimately he's on the block and you could argue at some point might have been in danger. So I feel like that anything that happens to him positive from a twist point of view is just happenstance at this point. So much of that is dependent on the editing. I mean, they've been showing some very fun diary rooms of Hamza. So, I mean, he's lucky that the show's producers have taken a liking to him.
Yeah, I think he's definitely playing for the audience, for sure.
And
I mean, he's like, nobody wants to see that boring stuff.
He was voted in as the HOH competition as the person who they didn't understand why he was cast on the show. So, I mean, I feel like more than anything, that tells you what the rest of the house thinks of him.
Yeah, he's playing for sure to the people. He wants to make sure it's not boring for everyone. He always talks about like, well, what would they want to see at home? Like, would they want to see this at home? I don't know. Like, so I think that shows that he's potentially playing a good game for Canada because Canada likes that sort of thing. I mean, look at Godfrey, look at everyone, they love to see that. And maybe he's not playing to win. Maybe he's just playing to make a big splash, and that's fine too.
Yeah. All right. From Tim, for T Forbes, is this one of the more game savvy casts we have seen in a while? The majority of the house seems to be playing at least relatively well. I have to say, I think that's true. I think this is one of the most savvy casts we've had in a while, and it's exciting me. I'm very excited about this season, very excited about this cast, and I just hope they don't screw it up.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I will say that they have bored me at times. Look, strategy is all good, but I also need a little bit of fire. I need a little, brimstone and salt and vinegar in my Big Brother, and I feel like that has been somewhat lacking in the show. So as long as it's a good balance moving forward, I do feel like that it will be a good product.
Yeah, I think for me at least, like the fire and brimstone, like that can come from most people, like, and that can come up and come down. That's sort of fleeting. Whereas like the strategy, if it's not there, it's never going to be there. So like the fact that we have the strategy means that I think the drama and the drive and everything that can just come from the strategy, and I hope that's what we see over.
Well, and there's nobody in this cast who I hear is playing for jury. Everyone is playing to win. Yeah. Everyone is really, really. I'm glad I haven't even heard that from anybody. I mean, that's just it's kind of unbelievable to me. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's considering what we went through last season on Big Brother 19.
We've got so many fans that care about the game. It's a nice feeling.
It's for the fans.
Yeah, seriously, that's the key. It's having the people who love the game and who want to play it.
Yes. All right. From Joe Santosti on Twitter, if you all had to redo your drafts, who would your new first draft picks be as of right now? I assume that's who we bought in the stock watch.
No. Well, I bought Paris in the stock watch.
I already have Jesse.
Yeah,
and we already. But
would that be your first pick in the draft if you had the draft now?
Oh, I thought we were saying we would have to repick. Okay.
Yeah, so no, like you picked Kayla as the number one pick in your draft. Like after I took Paris off the board, if you had it to do all over again, would you pick Kayla as your first selection, Melissa?
I'm
gonna guess
probably. No. I don't know. Maybe I'll just stick with my guns.
Okay. Taran, you picked Maddie as your selection as the first one in the draft. Looking back on that, would you change that because you picked Johnny right after, and you picked them back to back? So in reality, they could have been in any order.
Yeah, and I think those are definitely two of the top people that are on my board at least.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd maybe want Jesse on my team. I feel like he's one of the ones I'm missing. Yes, but
I got him.
Apart from that, I'm pretty happy for the most part.
You guys all said he was bland.
He was bland.
I didn't see it. I thought he was good. I liked it.
He's still bland. That's his strength.
I don't see it. I don't see him as bland. I didn't see it during the interviews. I don't see it now.
Look, I'm sorry that we don't have your love glasses on when it comes to Jesse.
Yeah.
Joe also asked, in terms of the house being split into two right now, which side do you guys support? So which side do you guys feel like you're? I mean, obviously, I think Brent, you and I both are on board with the Paris, Will, Maddie side. But Melissa, are you on the Jesse side of things, or where do you stand?
Red room or white room?
I don't have a side. I don't like any side more than the other. I'm very neutral at this point. There's nobody that I'm rooting for over other people at this point, which is nice because a lot of the times there's only like you have to root for X person because everyone else sucks. So it's nice to not have to feel that.
I'm rooting for the white room side of the house, mainly because there are a few people on the red room side that I just don't care for. I don't really care for Derek. I feel like Kayla could be playing better than she is right now, although I do like her very much. I like Jesse, but I mean, if he went somewhere, not that he's going to, but I wouldn't cry. And Olivia is the other person who's in the red room, who I really just I'm still aghast that she was cast on the show. I like what you had to have this person, really. Okay, anyway, moving on.
All right. From let's see. From Gonzalo Palma on Twitter. Is this the first time we see a battle between rooms, as we were just talking about? For future players, how important is it to choose what room you sleep in? And just for a little bit of context, these sides that we've been talking about, they really are kind of split in the middle between who's sleeping in what room. So the Will, Maddie, Paris side, most of them sleep in the white room, and the Jesse, Derek, Kayla side, most of them sleep in the red room. And to answer Gonzalo, I think room choice is one of the most underreported things in Big Brother in terms of the impact it has on alliances and strategy. People really, really, really tend to gravitate toward who they bunk with, who they sleep with, because they get to have those late night conversations and they interact with each other more. It really has a huge, huge influence. And if you're aware of that going in, then you can use that to your advantage. Do you agree, Brent?
Yes, I agree very much. But having said that, it's really tough from the beginning, from the beginning to pick out, okay, who do I feel really comfortable with, and who do I want to bunk with going into the house, because there's all that commotion and people are just putting bags on beds and whatnot. But I do agree with you that if you can pull it off and you can get in with some people who you like, who are in the room with you, it's great for you, because as you said, you can have game talk with them late at night when everybody else is asleep. Also, it's very hard if, like, let's say you're in a room and somebody else is sleeping in another room. If you guys want to have a talk, you kind of have to go somewhere, or one of you has to be in each other's bedroom, which people are always going to notice that. So either you're going to need to pick correctly or win HOH like Ryan did, where that way you can move upstairs, and then when you move back downstairs, you can be like, oh, I'll just sleep over here, and then just move to the room that you want to go to.
Yeah, or it's like in the Big Brother US house, where there's that one room that's basically in the open and you don't really have a door and you can see people coming and going. And I think that, like, it's really smart to pick that room because then you can see, no one can really go in a room together alone without you seeing it, essentially. And like, yeah, you're not going to get any sleep really, because you're going to be hearing the chats and hearing the talks and hearing the comings and goings. But at the same time, you'll be privy to a lot more information as to who's talking to who's going into secret rooms with who, and stuff like that. So I think that it totally matters where you sleep.
Yes. And as Tracy points out in the chat, the have-not room, if the have-not thing changes anything in the game, this is it. People can often bond when they get stuck in the have-not room together. And that can be influential on the game in some respects. So always be interested in where people are staying, where people are sleeping. That's they say in Survivor too, like you can tell what the alliances are based on who sleeps together in the shelter.
By the way, I thought that Big Brother told them that they're not allowed to sleep on top of the sarcophagus. Is that fake news or not? Because I saw them in the show getting on top of it, and I know Jesse was on top of it, but I thought that they told them they couldn't. So what happened with that? Anybody know?
I'm not sure.
Nobody knows. Okay, well, chat, fill me in on what happened with the obvious. I mean, like, if I look. I don't know if anybody has talked about this in the house, but to me, that looks plainly obvious that is going to be a twist later on in the game. You don't build something that huge and that big that has something potentially inside of it. I can't believe nobody's really thought of that yet.
Well, secretly, Kirsten has been hiding inside of it this whole time. She's been tweeting from inside.
Tweeting from it, yeah.
Okay, the chat is saying they can sleep there, which I did know they can't. Yeah, I know Jesse's been sleeping there. That's why I've been asking the question. I thought they told him that. It says they can sleep there, but they can't take the lid off. So that's the important thing.
All right. Erica F asks, which alliance would be best for Paris? How long do you think she can go before having to pick? So as we know, Paris is trying to ride the wave, play both sides, not have to choose sides. But how long do you think this can last for? And which side do you think is better for her, Melissa?
Oh, boy. That's really hard. I think that it's probably the side of the outsiders is better for her, I think, because I think that the outsiders could potentially go from one side to the other, whereas the other alliances are seen as the targets. So I think that she's better off kind of doing her own thing, but at the same time, that's probably going to bite her in the butt, and it could be as early as next week. So I don't know exactly when this is going to go poorly for her, but it's totally possible it could happen right away.
Yeah, I think what's best for her is to not pick a side ever. I think that she should allow both sides to be picked off, and then some combination of those two alliances that she has connections with, she will pull together and be the center of toward the end of the game. That's obviously the ideal. But how long will it last? How long can she hold this up? I'm really not sure. I think she can last at least another week, but she's playing very dangerously, and a lot of people have a lot of information. So I honestly have a hard time picturing this lasting more than just next week. I think that heading into the HOH competition for the week following next, I think this whole structure could be blown, and she might be able to pivot and have some other operation going on. But I think the current structure will be broken after next week. And I think that's about all we've got. This has been a packed episode of the Roundtable. Lots of information. I hope this was informative to you guys. I think we really went into detail about the layout of the house. I hope that you have a better understanding of where people lie and where things might go from here. And very, very excited to be back. Very excited to be talking Big Brother Canada 6. Very excited about this cast. Things are great. Do we have a hashtag for this episode? Let me know in the chat. Melissa, do you have any ideas?
Yes, but I'm not going to say
it. Jesse with glasses was one that I was thinking of.
Yeah, I feel like that's the one we have to go with. Otherwise, it's going to be something dirty.
Yeah. The chat is remembering very well the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, Jesse with glasses or love glasses. I feel like one of those things could work. We're not doing the other one. And do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, well, I'll just say this: when the feeds are on, they're really, really fun. So keep them on, and we'll be happy. How's that?
All right. Sounds good. Make sure you check out this week The Taran Show. It just came out last night. I talked with Rennie Martin from Big Brother 10, and people are loving it. It's been great. She was fantastic. She was so much fun. I really hope you guys enjoy this. Very, very much worth listening to, especially if you are aware of Rennie. And make sure you go and follow Rennie Martin on Twitter and go friend her on Facebook. She also wants people to friend her on Facebook. So find Rennie Martin on Facebook, send her a friend request, follow her on Twitter. She loves you guys. She wants the interaction. She loved the interview. So very, very excited about Rennie on the podcast. And of course, make sure you check out the live feed update tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be updating you on everything that happened on the feeds today. And then Thursday night, we will be live to recap the eviction episode of Big Brother Canada 6. So very excited about that as well. Check out the power rankings that Matt Ligori has going on robhasawebsite.com. He just did his week 1 power rankings with Peely. So make sure you check those out. Get Peely's thoughts on where she thinks the power rankings should go.
But I thought Peely was in the house.
Yeah. She hides away in the tomb and does the power rankings with the help of Kirsten. So also make sure you check out Ninja versus Ninja. Very, very fun show. Spin-off of American Ninja Warrior. Lita and I have been covering it, and we're also going to cover the USA versus the World special. So lots of ninja stuff heading your way as well. Brent, do you have anything going on?
Yeah, I'm covering RuPaul's Drag Race. You guys know where it is. Check it out.
All right. All right. So I just see. What do you guys think? Jesse with glasses or love glasses?
I like love glasses.
Okay, fine.
All right. So let's do hashtag love glasses. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taran. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's. And for Brent and Melissa, I am Taran Armstrong. Hashtag love glasses. We'll see you next time.